myhealthandliving.com. Natural Remedies for Life. I'm David Cummings, also known as Healthy Dave. It's all about natural health measures to live a healthy life, along with alternative remedies to help avoid sickness, heal your ailments, and maintain a youthful state. We believe that eating the right balance of natural fruit and veggies, nuts and seeds, along with a healthy lifestyle, can negate the need for over 90% of medicines and treatments on offer today. So how can we help you? Hopefully by promoting good, simple health and living principles that you can apply in your everyday life. Enjoy.
Okay, today we're going to be considering and talking about real natural foods versus packaged foods. There are substantial differences between the two. In order to analyse this, we need to consider the main differences, looking at the words then, from the dictionary or thereabouts, real natural and also packaged. Real natural foods means untouched or modified, and it is straight off the vine or tree. And packaged foods really means processed or packaged, modified, enhanced, or tampered with. Now I know that these two are rather extreme, but you must realise that if it's modified or processed, then by definition, it's not natural. It's not in its natural state. Your body will consume anything you put into it and deal with it as best as it can. This includes all processed and modified foods, some not so bad, and others, well, let's just say it's not so good. It can be a big debate, and you can go on and on about this or that food, but today's not really about a debate. We're just on about the real health food and the real health concerns over packaged foods and making you aware about what we put into our bodies. What we put into our mouths is either good or bad. We must realise that everything that we put in there has consequences. Whether it be short-term, long-term or secondary, it will affect your body in some way. Now let's have a look at some packaged foods. What do you do about researching and understanding the foods and the things that are in these foods before we eat them? Do you have a look at any of this stuff? Do you read the packet to see what adverse elements are actually in them? Do you know how your body reacts to certain processed foods? Or more importantly, do you even know what we're really feeding our kids? Our children seem to consume anything that they get put in front of, and we must be aware as parents that not all of it is good. Not all food is actually food. Because children's bodies are changing rapidly and growing, they seem to wear the brunt of food a lot more evidently than adults do. In other words, if you eat some MSG-filled potato crisps, and your child does as well, your child is most likely to react harder than you are because their body is still trying to grow and learn and develop. Just a little disclaimer about that too, that we have to understand that although packaged foods or processed foods affects us all differently, there are some fundamental ways in which we will react. And that is to say that it's usually the degree of the reaction that varies, not the reaction. Sometimes people can break out in some eczema if they have too much MSG. Others can have breathing difficulties. However, we must realise that it probably affects us that way too. It's just not so evident. The level or the degree of these reactions varies in our bodies. Now, here's a little test. Here's a little quest for you to go do. I want you to consider what is in your pantry or your fridge. What food is in your cupboard? That is a great question. So, be honest with yourself to get most out of this. You go and have a look in your cupboard, or go and have a look in your pantry or fridge, and have a look and just see what's in there. Is it good stuff? Is it junk food? Is the majority of it fruit and veggies? Being honest with ourselves is the only way we're going to get the most out of this. So, do you have too much junk? Do you have excess of fruit and veggies and not enough junk? Those are the real questions. And as important as they may seem, they can make all the difference as well. Make all the difference in health or unhealthy. I suppose the real reason why we have to be honest with ourselves is because all too often we can just be fooling ourselves into thinking that it is only a little bit that we're eating, or it's just a treat. But what about this question? Is it a treat? What constitutes the timing of the treats? A treat every night is not a treat. It's really just part of your staple diet. And that's what I mean about fooling ourselves. Are we consuming too much of the nasties and the junk food that react adversely in our bodies? Here is a typical list of what is found in most Western society pantries or fridges, and it is quite alarming. So, if your cupboard looks like this, and the food stacks everywhere represent this, well then you may have to reconsider your own health issues. Not necessarily short term, but certainly long term. Okay, here's the list. Potato crisps. Chips in a packet, that is. Corn chips. Cookies, or biscuits, or crackers. Rice crackers. Rice and corn shapes. Cupcakes. Donuts. Muesli bars. Rice bars. Nut bars. Confectionery chocolate bars. Candy. Lollies. Sweet on sticks. Wrapped sweets, toffees, chew bars, mints, breath mints, after dinner mints, candy suckers, lolly suckers, lozenges, pre-made pasta meals, instant noodles, soda drinks, soft drinks, soda pops, pre-mixed carbonated drinks, juices, fruit drinks, pre-squeezed fruit and vegetable juices, beers and wines, and the list just goes on and on and on. So I suppose the question is this your staple diet? If so, as we mentioned before, we need to really consider our own health issues for the long term. So with that list, I'm going to ask you one other question, and that is, where is the food in that list? Because all of this stuff is junk food. It's not real food. It might fill us up quickly and pass through, but it's not exactly nutritional. It's not food. So where's the fruit and veggies, I ask? Well, is this your staple diet? Go back to your cupboard or your fridge and have a look. Do you have the majority of fruit and veggies? Because if so, then you are certainly on the right track to living a healthy life. I'm not trying to segregate people to say, if you've got a cupboard full of junk food that you're going to be unhealthy. I am saying, though, that in the long term, you need to really consider your health options, because eventually, too much junk food will come back and bite you. And one of the sayings I heard recently is, just because you are obese, just because your brother is obese, and just because your father and mother are obese, doesn't mean obesity runs in the family. It means that the family doesn't run and doesn't eat properly. Now that little saying, I know, can be perhaps a little bit of offensive sometimes, or to certain people. However, to be honest, it's really what about we eat. It's really what about we feed our faces with. And if we look at our diets and they are really not too crash hot, and the food we eat aren't substantially fruit and veggies and nuts and natural foods, then we are certainly on the wrong track to a future of unhealthy lifestyle. So if you want to be healthy, reconsider what's in your fridge and cupboard. Alright, I think I've laboured on that point enough. So, here's the next thing. Watch how your kids react when they eat packaged foods. Now, remember that today's topic is all about natural foods and health foods and the differences between them. And that is that health food will generally have a good behaviour outcome, and junk food or packaged food may perhaps have an unfavoured or bad reaction behaviour in your children. And it could even be in yourself as well. I know what I prefer for my children, and that is that if they do have packaged or junk food with perhaps some MSG or something in them, then it really stands out that they have eaten the MSG. Their behaviour goes off the chart. Their mannerisms change. The way they talk back, the way they listen, the way they are unattentive. It's just really a product of their environment, and that is that they fed their face, their body, with something that wasn't really suitable. And their body's trying to react with it. It's trying to deal with it as best it can. Hence, their behaviour goes off the chart. And that's why we're really careful about what our children eat, and they are certainly aware of it as well. What to eat and what not to eat is a great thing to know. Now, another aspect of packaged foods, and certainly natural foods, is the glycemic index. And a glycemic index really affects how our bodies process foods. And the higher the glycemic index, the faster it digests and processes in our body. So if you've heard of a low GI food, it simply means that the food processes slower and it releases the energy slower into our bodies, which means you can have longer lasting energy over a period of time. For instance, a packet of potato crisps might be a really high GI food. Bang! It hits your body and it starts to process and go through, and all of a sudden it's gone and you're out of energy. Where on the other hand, if you eat some sweet potato, which is a low GI food, it processes slowly and you get longer lasting energy over a longer period of time. Now that is very important, and we're going to talk about that at another period, and not now. However, we've got to consider that some foods have a high glycemic index and others have a low GI or a low glycemic index. And the majority of packaged foods have high GI, which really affects the way we behave when we're eating the food and afterwards as well. Watch your energy levels just drop off half an hour to an hour later.